Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I want to talk to you about 6 subjects tonight. The first one is the reports that the Palestinian Authority head of intelligence, Majid Faraj, supposedly creating forces in South Gaza and what that could mean. The second subject that I want to talk to you about is Galant's psychopathic message for Ramadan. The third topic that I want to talk to you about is Benjamin Netanyahu and the recent intelligence agencies' reports from the US, and that causing a lot of problems between the Biden administration and Benjamin Netanyahu. The fourth thing that I want to talk to you about is the families of Israeli prisoners held in Gaza and what they're saying against the war cabinet in Israel. The fifth thing that I want to talk to you about is Grant Shapps and his refusal to drop aid in Gaza. And the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about is a PFLP leading figure speaking about the meetings in Russia between the Russian authorities and heads of the Palestinian political parties. I'm going to start off with Majid Faraj. So who is the man? He is the leader of the intelligence agency in the Palestinian Authority. Now, with regards to the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, we're talking about the authority in the West Bank. You're talking about an authority that is completely aligned with Israel. People need to know that. These people don't move unless they are approved by Israel. Channel 14, the Israeli Channel 14, reported that Majid Faraj already began creating a force, an armed force in the southern part of Gaza with the blessings of the Israeli government, primarily Galant. But it wasn't only Galant. There were reports that Benjamin Netanyahu is approved of this and that Yair Lapid, the head of the opposition, is also approving this move. And he even previously said, Yair Lapid, that Majid Faraj is a very good person working against Hamas. This is the idea behind this. However, with regards to the force and why are we mentioning the southern part of Gaza? Firstly, the fact that Israel relies on this man and he is supposedly going ahead with this plan with Israel's blessings says a lot. You have the country that's committing genocide in Gaza now, giving the okay for a man to go ahead and create an armed force in the southern part of Gaza. Now, Israel is targeting innocent civilians in Gaza, let alone anyone carrying a stick or a stone. Why should they approve any Palestinian force holding weapons? Just signals where that weapon will be used and against who. Gaza obviously faced massive clashes between Hamas and the Fatah movement, the PLO back then, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, that ruled Gaza before the elections. But after they won democratically, they tried to reach agreements with them. They failed. Then they started having, obviously, problems with them. They wanted to have certain key positions in the government. They refused. Some people in the Fatah movement who were extremely aligned with Israel started causing massive problems. Then we had all of the situation where Hamas completely took over by force. But people need to remember that it began with democratic elections and Hamas were willing to form a unity government with Fatah. So you have that historical fight between them. And many people, and I will be speaking about this towards the end of this video, are complaining to the Palestinian Authority and their approach that brought the Palestinians nothing in the past 30 years following the Oslo Accords. They were promised to have a Palestinian state. We saw nothing but expansion, and they're still keen on going ahead with their ways. However, many of them already are talking about the day after in Gaza and them ruling Gaza. It wasn't just Majid Faraj, by the way. We've had multiple other statements. One of them was from the foreign minister of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, Riyad al-Maliki. This is not new. In the 2008-2009 war between Israel and Gaza, Israel was planning to take down Hamas and bring back the Palestinian Authority, and the Palestinian Authority was completely okay with that. As a matter of fact, this was stated by the previous deputy prime minister at the time, Avigdor Lieberman. They wanted to bring the Palestinian Authority on Israeli tanks. This is what they wanted to do. Now they're trying to do the same thing with Gaza through Rafah. This could obviously potentially help the Israeli planned campaign in the southern part of Gaza and have a Palestinian who is completely aligned with them after many other plans failed. Obviously, they're failing against the armed resistance in Gaza. They failed in creating other types of governing bodies in Gaza. I previously spoke about their tribal approach when it comes to reaching out for tribe leaders in Gaza, telling them, we're ready to deal with you, but you need to denounce Hamas and you need to deal with us. And they had a massive letter confirming a statement saying that we will not deal with the occupation. This is considered treason, and politics belongs to the people of Gaza. Whoever they elect will run Gaza. This is another malicious attempt from Israel to cause division in Gaza and lead to internal battles. This is what Israel wants. They failed to do it so far, but they're still attempting to do it. And there are people from the Palestinians who are willing to go ahead with Israel and do such heinous actions, especially after the massive sacrifices of the Palestinian people in Gaza and this genocide that's been going on for over 5 months. And many people are still talking about the day after in Gaza. And I stated previously, what we should be talking about is not the day after in Gaza. What we should be talking about is the day after in Israel. A genocidal supremacist ethnocracy that's been oppressing and occupying lands for over 75 years and committing a genocide in broad daylight, killing people, innocent children, innocent women, innocent elderly. They destroyed 90% of the schools in Gaza. Over 30 of Gaza's hospitals are non-functional. They've destroyed water wells, any lifeline for Gaza. This is a genocide, a complete genocide to expel the Palestinian population, to ethnically cleanse them and get rid of them. And they've had this plan for a very, very long time. This is the first thing that I wanted to talk about. The second thing that I want to talk about is this man who supposedly gave the blessing to Majid Faraj having a security force in the southern part of Gaza, Yoav Galant, the Israeli defense minister. He's sending a Ramadan message to Muslims. What did he say in his Ramadan message? He said, quote, "The month of Ramadan is an important month which the Quran was revealed and in which there is an opportunity to improve neighborly relations and strengthen family ties. We are aware that the month of Ramadan may be a month of jihad. We tell everyone thinking of trying us, we are ready. Don't make mistakes. I want to bless you. And Israel respects freedom of worship at Al-Aqsa and at the holy places. Ramadan Kareem." What kind of a Ramadan message is it? Can you understand and realize how this psychopathic man behaves? All of the Israeli leadership, they're absolute psychopaths in the way they talk, in the way they approach, in their arrogant approach towards people, even when they want to congratulate them in the holy month of Ramadan. Imagine that. So Ramadan Kareem, but be careful. Ramadan Kareem, but we can destroy you. This is the same person who called the people of Gaza human animals, and now he's trying to convince us that he's greeting the Muslim people in Ramadan. Which leads me to the third thing that I want to talk about. So approximately 18 intelligence agencies in the US, they published a report. Some of this, a loaded report, okay? We need to not forget that. However, it also mentioned Hamas and Israel and the war in Gaza. They said that Israel will be facing Hamas resistance for years to come. So Hamas's capacity to them, they can handle fighting Israel for very many years to come. I said it was loaded because they're obviously relating Hamas to ISIS and all of this malicious attempt to connect the legitimate Palestinian resistance to these rogue groups that were created by Western intelligence agencies, and everyone with basic knowledge and research knows that ISIS and these movements. However, Israelis were fuming, okay? Because there was another reports came concurrently at the same time that they said that Israel is better off basically without Benjamin Netanyahu. What they said specifically is Israel is at risk of, they're expecting a large protest breaking out to ask for the resignation of Benjamin Netanyahu and have a more moderate government. There was a report in Israeli media that Benjamin Netanyahu decided to, a senior official said that for Channel 12 in Israel, that Benjamin Netanyahu decided to go on a massive front against Joe Biden after this. Another senior Israeli official was quoted saying, these people try and keep anonymity to not get themselves into trouble. He said that the US administration should focus on ousting Hamas and not the Israeli government. So they already had frictions. Biden and Netanyahu have a history of tense relations. He doesn't like him from the days of Barack Obama and even before. However, obviously the strategic partnership is very important when it comes to this. But it seems like now it's intensifying. And with regards to Netanyahu's claims that he's going to have a supposed bigger battle with Joe Biden, let's wait and see what he can actually do. And Israel keeps repeating, this is the fourth thing that I want to talk to you about, the prisoners, right? That they are interested in getting back their prisoners, that this is a priority. We need to get our prisoners back from Gaza. These people, they have representatives in Israel. Families of prisoners, they have representatives constantly lobbying, trying to speak with people. They speak with people internationally. They released a statement today saying that the Israeli war cabinet is not willing to meet with us at the same time that international leaders are willing to meet with us. Not the Israeli war cabinet. The Israeli war cabinet, the media, they're telling you we're working to get back our prisoners. If you're working to get back the prisoners, why are you ignoring their families? Clearly, it's not about the prisoners. If it was about the prisoners, you had a temporary ceasefire. You had the option to continue releasing Israeli prisoners. Clearly, remember that. There was an agreement that we can extend the temporary ceasefire, release further Israeli prisoners for the continuation of the ceasefire, obviously, getting aid in and releasing Palestinian prisoners. But it was Yoav Galant who approved the ending of the ceasefire and re-engaging the war, reactivating the war. They had the option to, they didn't do it. Plus, they killed their own prisoners in Gaza. We stated it many times. Israel killed over 50 of their own prisoners in the first month only. Many witnesses who were released said that Israeli forces were bombing them as and when they were moving. Israel killed a further 30 in the past 4 months. Names, images, IDs were released by the Palestinian resistance and are constantly published by the Palestinian resistance as and when Israel kills more Israeli prisoners. So who are you lying to? Exactly. You're killing your own prisoners. You couldn't care less about your prisoners. You deliberately killed many of them knowing that they were in the same locations to target some Hamas officials. And even when they weren't next to figures who you wanted to catch, you were still killing them, supposedly to lower the price that you have to pay in comparison. But the Palestinian resistance, they told them, particularly Hamas, Al-Qassam brigades, it doesn't matter how many Israelis you kill, we will ask for the full price, even if it's for one Israeli prisoner. However, Israel doesn't care about that. They're on a genocide campaign to ethnically cleanse the population of Gaza and have full control of Gaza like they have full control of the West Bank. Which leads me to the British Defense Minister's statement that he will not allow airdrop aid to Gaza from Britain. So we had multiple countries now dropping aid. Obviously, we criticized the lack of required quantity, really, and the fact that it hardly feeds dozens of families, really, in Gaza, and how they should be focusing on Israel to open the borders, to allow land aid in, the trucks that are waiting in their thousands. But he's saying, no, we are not going to drop aid in Gaza because we're worried that it might kill some people when it's going down on them. If you're worried, Mr. Grant Chaps, about killing people by dropping aid, if your genuine worry was people being killed, then speak to your ally that's killed over 31,000 innocent Palestinian civilians, 13,000 of which children, 8,000 of which are women. Speak with your ally and, I don't know, expel their ambassador, pose an embargo, take your ships to have a blockade on Israel instead of facing the Houthis. Use some pressure to stop that aggression instead of sugarcoating it and hesitating and describing it, even completely ignoring, describing it as a genocide and allowing it to happen, enabling it, supporting them militarily, diplomatically, if you were worried about the people in Gaza. And again, with the airdrop aid, people should be focusing on putting more pressure on Israel to open the land lines to Gaza. We have thousands of trucks waiting to get aid into Gaza. There is obviously legitimate criticism of the Egyptian side still abiding by these treaties that they have with Israel with regards to Gaza because people are starving to death. You ditch any sort of agreement when it comes to saving people's lives and preventing people dying from starvation. They're already being killed by airstrikes, by land, by gunshots, by everything. And the least you can do is not let them die through starvation. Which leads me to the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about in this video. We've had the Palestinian political parties meeting in Russia a couple of weeks ago, and Russia obviously invited them. Russia said that the meetings were secret. They're not going to publish many things about them. However, as and when we receive some sort of information, we share it so that people can get an idea as to what's going on. Now, from the beginning of this meeting, we didn't really rely heavily on it. There were many countries attempting to reconcile the Palestinian party, especially really the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and the rest of the Palestinian movements, because it's primarily the Palestinian Authority. And what I'm going to describe to you is going to highlight that, really. So Al-Manar network that belongs to Hezbollah in Lebanon, they had an interview with the international relations officer in the Palestinian Front for the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the PFLP. They had an interview with him, asking him about what happened in Russia. He said many things. His name is Maher al-Tahir, if anyone is interested in his name. He started off by saying that they met with Lavrov on the 29th of February. Lavrov described to them there was a group of countries called the Quartet that were dealing with the situation with Palestine and Israel. post 2006. He said that the acts of any activity from the quartet has been frozen, really, and that when we try and approach the West with regards to Palestine, they tell us that the Palestinians are divided, there's no one to talk to. There's an authority in the West Bank, and there is an authority in Gaza. He reiterated the importance of having Palestinian unity, and he said that if they do have unity, that would help Russia in dealing with the international community when they speak about Palestine. He also said that we do not interfere in internal issues, but we're here to give you advice. We're here to advise you. And I just wanted to have a quick comment here. Listen to the approach of the Russian government and compare it to the approach of Western governments and see the difference. I'll leave that to you to highlight the difference really between the approaches. The neo-colonial, supremacist, the I know better than you what should happen approach, and the I'm not here to interfere, but I'm here to advise approach by a country that's really a superpower. He said that the following days, Maher Tahir, the PFLP official, he said that they started by speaking about, obviously, each party's vision, spoke about the next stage, but he also said that they had highlighted the importance of having armed resistance and a vision that the US, and I'm talking about the US administration here, is an enemy supporting this genocide, and we shouldn't really be relying on the US. That must be realized, that they're supporting this genocide. After they spoke about their visions, he said that they spoke about the following stages, but he stated, I spoke about in the beginning of this video, the PA, the Palestinian Authority of the West Bank, they still insist on diplomacy and peaceful resistance and a two-state solution. We try to focus on what unites us, he said, but in the PFLP, that's their obviously approach, we think if the leadership was at the level of sacrifice, then we must agree on core things, primarily that the Oslo approach, that the Palestinian Authority of the West Bank has been engaging for all those years, has proven to be completely wrong. It brought us nothing. The enemy, Israel, to him, they say that there are no Palestinian people. They deny our existence. They deny us having a state, and they deny any of our rights. So how can we continue this approach of negotiating with them after we've done so for 30 years and we've got to nowhere with this approach, and insist on this approach? And he had a lot of criticism against the Palestinian Authority for continuing this approach. He said that they insisted on it and they kept repeating it. He said that they still agreed on certain points and they might have more meetings, but we will see if the Palestinian Authority of the West Bank is willing to review its actions that led to a dead end. Then we can review the PLO, which is the governing organization for the Palestinian political movements that doesn't include Hamas and the Palestinian PIJ. He said that we can then review it and let Hamas and the PIJ in, so that we can have a truly representative PLO. However, he said that if they insist on their previous approach, things won't look well. And this is coming from an official in the PFLP, not Hamas nor the PIJ, clearly stating that the main problem is the Palestinian Authority leadership in the West Bank and their approach when it comes to Oslo and with Israel. It's as if they don't have the Palestinian interest in mind, and they are more worried about their positions, their alliance with Israel, and Israel's security and rights, their settlers' rights, and not their rights. He ended it by saying, Al-Aqsa flood is a historic battle and one of the most important battles in recent decades. This is a legendary battle against the US and Israel that will have implications regionally and internationally. He ended it by saying that we at the PFLP, we proposed having a global front against the global tyranny led by the US approach and building a new world order that is multipolar and not just based on US hegemony. So these were the main things that I wanted to talk to you about tonight. I hope I added some beneficial information for you, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Take care.